Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pazit Kahlon-Shelnutt, and I am from Emory University in Georgia. Sorry I couldn't be on site with everyone, but I hope being here online will kind of express what I'm trying to show in this presentation. So during COVID, the time that we all remember, unfortunately, there were a couple of questions, there were many questions that researchers were trying to give answer to. And the big question was, are we witnessing a dramatic change taking place in the world of education? And if we do, what is happening among language learners who are currently studying under conditions of physical, social, and economic stress and anxiety as a result of a global virus? Or unfortunately, today we have students that have to be online because of a war situation, being in a war zone. Those were questions that came up during that time and are still, we are very much into investigating it because at Emory, for example, we are still teaching in a hybrid mode. Means some of our classes are being taught some days online and some days on campus. So this is really something I wanted to investigate, and it had to start with understanding the literature and what is out there in order to understand further the topic. So the question that we were asking was, in what ways do adult learners in a distance language class experience foreign language learning anxiety? And then we'll move from the face-to-face class into the online class. So in order to answer this question, let's just go a little bit and find out what is it, anxiety. So anxiety, the definition is the subjective feeling of tension, apprehension, nervousness, and worry associated with the awakening of the an autonomic nervous system. Something that happens in our body that causes those feelings. Now, anxiety can be a situational type of anxiety, means a social fear or any fear that where we are feeling in a danger or something that threatens us. For example, fear of death. Also, anxiety is something that inherent in the human personality. So this is something within us that can come and go along life. And we have the type of anxiety that is about learning a subject, a topic, for example, math and science. Those anxieties considered as anxieties that appear while we are learning. After, being in a class of math with a specific teacher, with a specific method of teaching, we are experiencing those fears that maybe if we were in a different class, it wouldn't happen. Now, when we are looking at language learning anxiety, that was defined already in the 80s by Elaine Horowitz, saying that learning language anxiety is unique to learning a foreign language, and it doesn't look like a math anxiety or a science anxiety. And the reason is because language learner comes to the classroom with perceptions and assumptions about language learning that are shaped in the learning process. Means they're already coming with some ideas in their mind about what is it language learning, and this is kind of causing the learning to be, going this way or that way. Language anxiety also has a great influence on the degree of achievement in the learning process. Because it's something that a student comes with into the classroom, this is not considered as a side effect of the learning. Rather, this is the reason for the achievement of the students. Horowitz invented the scale, the foreign language classroom anxiety scale that many researchers until today many professors using in their classrooms. And this is something that we use in our classes for the last couple of years at the beginning of a course and at the end of the course to really identify who are the students that experiencing anxiety at the beginning of the course, to be aware. And that can help us later on with maybe paying more attention to what they need and what can we do in the class. Just to show you some example, for example here, just two example, quick one. Those are two statements from the scale of Horowitz that our student answered at the beginning of last spring, 2023. I never feel quite sure of myself when I'm speaking in my foreign language class. You can see here that almost 36% says that they agree with this statement out of 14 students in a class. Also another statement, it frightens me when I don't understand what the teacher is saying in the foreign language. Look here, 50% agree with this statement. If we quick gonna go to another one, I don't worry about making mistake in language class. Look here, the green part, 50% disagree with this statement. Okay, so we're gonna move quickly and try to understand what are the factors that shaping language anxiety overall. So we have the students, things like low self-esteem, fear of criticism from the environment can definitely affect. Perception of learning foreign language that I mentioned earlier. Students many times come to class with this perception that they have to speak with no accent, or they cannot make mistake, or I have to sound like a native speaker at the end of this course. Perception that are not necessarily not correct, and we all know that. Teacher perception can have an effect as well. A teacher that looking at himself as the ruler of the class, the center of the knowledge, avoiding group activity, from the fear of losing control on the class. The relationship between teacher and student, teacher that directing his student, giving guidance can decrease the level of anxiety. And teacher that, making corrections on the spot, not that considerate of his student time or investment, can cause the anxiety to go up. The classroom setup, the way students are coming and presenting things in front of the class, in front of a group, maybe there are no groups at all, and obviously the method of assessment. If the assessment are unfamiliar, vague, long exams, a mismatch between teaching method and assessment method, all these things can cause increase of the level of anxiety. Now, I want to show you, before we move to the online platform, just to show you overall what I found. That from the existing research, it appears that no significant difference was found between the degree of anxiety in the physical classroom and the online classroom. But the difference lies in the nature and quality of the anxiety. This is what was found from the research that's available today. And let's look, for example, at student feelings and what do they experience. So students were asked in some researches about their feelings about these two platforms. So both said, both platforms were told that they are fun and exciting. But the difference is that in the face-to-face class, the reason were natural and challenging social environment. That's what students mentioned the most. And in the online classroom, they said that it's fun and exciting because of motivations of diversity in the space, innovation, tools that teachers were using, the speed, the fastness, and the directness. Those are the reasons that the platform felt as fun and exciting. On the other hand, student expressed frustration and stress, again, from different reasons. So in the face-to-face class, the reason where the teacher's rapid rate of speech that caused confusion and embarrassment to talk or to do anything in the class. And in the online classroom, we can see, we can read from the literature that feelings of detachment, fear, boredom, and frustration appear due to lack of personal attention. And that's something that will come up later again. So the question is, how does anxiety manifest itself in distance learning? So learners often come to the online space by choice, accompanied by different assumption and perception about language learning in the traditional classroom and learning overall in the online world. Now, combining those perception and assumptions regarding the two different learning space creates basically new assumptions and approaches that are not necessarily correct. When these assumptions meet reality, the degree of anxiety may increase or decrease. And we're gonna look into some factors in order to explain it a little bit deeper. So if we look here, let's look at the distance factor, okay? The fact that students can schedule the online classes according to their family schedule, to their school schedule, that can help with decreasing the anxiety. Also the distance, the fact that the student doesn't need to drive anywhere, it doesn't need to stuck in the traffic like here in Atlanta, which is really, really bad, saves them time, they're not nervous, they can open the computer and be anywhere at any time, take the class everywhere. And obviously the cost, which is also a factor. Usually online classes are cheaper than attending face-to-face. On the other hand, the fact that many times students have no say in choosing the classes, like what we saw in COVID or what we see now during war in war zones, that can create an increase in anxiety. The fact that it wasn't the student choice, and on top of it, negative past experience that students had in other online classes can bring them into the language class with anxiety that it's going to be negative, I'm going to fail, and it's probably going to be the same like the other experience I had before in the past. If we look at the factor of the language acquisition, so quick one here, in the process, in the abilities, the receptive abilities, okay, of writing and, sorry, just a second. In the language acquisition, if we look at the stages of input and intake that we bring into the class, where students basically just need to listen or to view something, this is the time that we can see in both platforms that there is no high anxiety. But the anxiety goes up when they get to the stage of the output and they need to produce in speaking or writing. This is where they feel anxiety going up, especially in the online, where they feel like all the eyes, all the 18 students on the screen are looking at them and expecting from them to project. Now, if we look at the factor of synchronous and asynchronous classes, here we can see that, for example, in the synchronous classes, if we use, let's say, Kahoot or Quizlet Live, those are activities, synchronous activities that gives immediate feedback. A student can write, short answers, and anxiety wasn't showing any high rates. Also in asynchronous activities like that we do sometimes when we do the flipped classroom and we give them activity to do at home, the factor of the time helped with a low anxiety rate because the students were on time and they could do things in their own pace. Now, the same activities can, on the other hand, increase the anxiety. For example, Kahoot and Quizlet Live that I mentioned earlier, even though it's an immediate feedback and short answer, it's still a timed assignment. So for some students, it might increase the anxiety and also the fear of the peer responses around me. Seeing it on the big screen, all those synchronous activities, see where am I on this compared to the rest of the class. And also the fear of failing, getting the wrong results. And the fact that there is no immediate feedback in the, for example, asynchronous class. Students need that feedback, and sending an assignment that I did at home in my own time, not knowing what will be the result for probably a couple of days or until the teacher is checking it, really cause anxiety that we need to take into consideration. Motivation and enjoyment. So we all know that students that are coming into our classes motivated, they're very organized, they're self-disciplined, they know how to take responsibility, and they're very independent. All those things are good for face-to-face class, and especially for the online class when you don't have the teacher over there and your peers around you. So that's something that will help with a low rate of anxiety, lower the anxiety. And obviously, when a student enjoying the class, that will lower the anxiety as well. Now, on the other hand, sometimes even when students are coming with those skills, the literature shows that even if they are motivated and organized and self-disciplined, sometimes the fact that they are in the online platform, for them it's like a live show. And they feel the anxiety because this live show requires from them to project accuracy and correctness. And then their whole focus of learning that language is on this and not on, producing a communicative language. Also, in many cases, it was shown that motivation, if it's integrative motivation or instrumental motivation, turns into anxiety when it comes into the online classroom because students are being afraid as to be considered as stupid, saying the wrong thing in the wrong time, and that's really increased anxiety. In addition, no enjoyment, in the class can happen in both platforms, will increase anxiety. If we look at cooperative learning, obviously group work, thinking together, sharing work, anything that teachers can do to support learning as a community will definitely decrease the anxiety when students feel like they are not threatened by the environment, when they have more time to think, when they don't have the feeling that they are under a microscope, okay? They can create the sense of community, and they will definitely develop the mutual trust between them and the teachers and them and other peers, because they feel that they are not alone. And they feel like they are going to take that way together with everybody else around them. And the opposite will increase the anxiety. Now, if we look at strategies, learning strategies, the cognitive strategies as indirect strategies like metacognitive, affective, and social, those are the ones that will help decrease. Students allow themselves to take risk, to guess the answer, to have reflection on their work, to give themselves self-feedback, using music or yoga. All these things can help them with anxiety. And it was shown in the research that many students that came into an online class thinking that the direct method as, repetition and memory and guessing will help them in this online class, they found out that it didn't. and actually the metacognitive strategies really help them. The last thing is, the computer anxiety, that we all need to think about this and know that as teachers, we always think that our students know everything and they were born into this world of technology. But sometimes they also need to understand the platform. And maybe they are great with social media, but using an unfamiliar platforms and giving them assignment without explaining how this platform works or giving them more direction about the platform, that can cause anxiety. So I'll do it quick. I know we don't have much time. So what can we do as teachers? And if we teach online, and if this is the way our university work now, or maybe in the future we will be asked to teach online, we have to make sure that we are giving training and guidance to the learner in various platforms, that they know what they do, that they know how to access everything. Give available and open and encouraging and supportive feedback, emphasizing that there is no expectation of perfection, and they can make mistake even though we are not in the classroom and there is not that interaction, face-to-face interaction. This is a really, really important thing that came up throughout the literature. Creating a support network of learner. So on top of the teacher support, we need a community support, a community, learner community that help each other study together, think together. Awareness of learning strategies. Teach your student what is out there, what's available for them to help them to study. Sometimes they're trying to apply what they know from other courses, and maybe it's not going to work for them in the language class. Practice and rehearsal before performance. Always. Don't just put them on the spot and let them, project. Lots of synchronous joint work outside the classroom. So make sure that they are familiar with that type of work outside of the classroom. Then when they can come, they are more aware of what they need to do, what's the expectations from them. Making authentic and interesting material available to the learner and connect meaning to form. Know what your students are interested in. Read what they read. Go into the social media that they are playing with in order to bring and connect the meaning to the form and make this connection and make this acquisition happening. And obviously, at the end, encouraging joining native speaker groups on social media, which this is something that really, really helpful. And I see it with many students, especially when we were during COVID, at home and not seeing each other face to face. So I just want to say thank you for everyone. And if you have any other questions, I'm here. Thank you.